If you searched how to find my art style to get here, I'm about to save you a lot of time. It might just not be what you were expecting. Because the whole idea of finding your art style, that's the problem. That mindset right there is what's keeping you kind of stuck. I've been teaching art for over a decade now, thousands of students. And interestingly enough, the ones that are always like obsessing over finding their art styles tend to be the ones that struggle the most. Some of you will have realized this already, but your art style is not something you find. It's not out there waiting for you to discover it. And the more you search for it to some extent, the further you get from actually developing one. Art styles are constructed piece by piece. And if you're ready to find out how exactly, pay a class fee of either 1 like or 1 sub, and let's get started. The word finding here I think is doing a lot of damage. Because think about what it implies. Your style is somewhere out there, hidden, and your job is to locate it, like some side quest where the treasure is buried on some island and you're trying to find a map to go find it. That's not how this works. When you're in finding mode, you're browsing, like scrolling Pinterest, Instagram, X, looking at other artists and thinking, is this my style? What about this one? And when you do this, you're basically shopping for an identity instead of building one. And what happens? Well, you see an artist you like, you try to copy their approach maybe, and it doesn't feel quite right. So maybe you move on to the next one. And then you rinse and repeat for months, maybe years, and you're still no closer to having a style because you've been looking outside yourself the entire time. And your style isn't external. It's not something that you pick off a shelf. It's something that's forming inside of you right now every time you draw. It's just that often you won't see it because you're too busy looking everywhere else. So if you don't find it, where does it come from? Your art style is really just a collection of preferences and habits that you build over time. Every time you draw, you make decisions, right? How do I draw this eye? How much detail should I put here? What do I exaggerate? What do I leave out? You make these micro decisions constantly, probably without even realizing it. And do that enough and patterns will emerge. You notice maybe you keep doing certain things a certain way. Maybe you always use the same couple of brushes, like I do with these photo studies that I've been doing more of recently. Maybe you color around your line art, or maybe you paint over those lines in a way that they're no longer visible in the final image. These small tendencies that keep showing up, that's your style that's developing. It's like cooking, really. Like nobody starts off with a signature dish, right? You'll follow a recipe at first, and then you start tweaking things like based on what you like. More garlic here, maybe. Less salt here. Triple the butter there. Swap this ingredient that I don't know for this one that I have. And you do this long enough, and eventually the way you cook becomes recognizable. You didn't find your cooking style, you developed it through repetition and preference. And art styles work exactly the same way. It's the accumulation of thousands of small choices over time. The more you draw, the more defined those patterns become. But you do need to actually be drawing for this to happen. Not browsing, not searching, drawing. Now let me tell you what I see with artists that are stuck in the finding mindset, right? Finding your art style mindset. And there's a lot of you out there. That's why how to find my art style is constantly a trending search topic on YouTube. The first common problem is that people will copy without understanding. You see an artist whose style you love, right? So you try maybe to replicate it, but you're not learning their decision-making process. You're copying the surface most of the time. You don't necessarily understand why they use colors in a certain way or why they use that specific brush here and not there. You're essentially just mimicking the final output without understanding the recipe. And then what you end up with is a shallow imitation that doesn't really feel like yours. Well, because it isn't. And the moment that you try to draw something that that specific artist hasn't drawn, right? If you're not copying it, well, you get lost again. And now the second problem is you're building on a weak foundation. This one is probably painful, but I gotta say it. If your fundamentals aren't solid, your style is probably just mistakes that you've dressed up nicely. You see this all the time, right? Like people online getting feedback that they might not have asked for. And then their immediate reply to that feedback will be to justify their essential mistakes by the fact that it's their style, you know, I choose to do it this way. And it is possible if you're really experienced, but usually artists who think they have a stylized way of drawing anatomy, it's probably not really that, right? They just can't draw anatomy. There's a big difference between deliberately breaking the rules and not knowing the rules exist in the first place. One is style, and the other one is just being wrong and not knowing it. You need knowledge to be aware of all the knowledge that you don't have yet. And then there's a third problem. Let's call it the Frankenstein effect. When you're in finding your art style mode, you grab pieces from different artists, like I like how this person does the eyes, right? Or I like how this person does the hair. I'll take the coloring from this other guy. Sounds reasonable, maybe, but what you end up with is this stitched together thing that doesn't feel cohesive. It's not a style, it's more of a collage. And deep down, you probably know that it's not really yours because you assembled it from parts rather than growing it from the ground up. Now, to be fair, practicing drawing using multiple references this way is a great way to level up your skills. So don't think you shouldn't do that, but it's not a great way to develop your style, is all I'm saying. So if searching for your style is counterproductive, what should you actually do? Fundamentals first. I know, boring. Everyone says this, but it's the truth. Early on, roughly like 80% of your practice should be fundamentals. Anatomy, perspective, values, color theory, you know, the building blocks. You can copy artists you like for fun, that's fine and that's great. But that shouldn't be the main course. Good art styles are really just collections of small aesthetic deviations from reality. And to deviate intentionally, you need to know what reality looks like first, right? Like you can't stylize anatomy if you don't understand anatomy. Just like you can't make interesting color choices if you don't understand color. Fundamentals give you that control to make deliberate style decisions later. And without them, you're just really guessing. And the best way to learn those fundamentals is with the sponsor of this video, me. My full art program is still on sale for a couple more days, so check it out with the link in the video description. And don't miss out on the biggest discount we'll have until the end of the year. You'll get to join a huge gang of like-minded artists in our school's Discord, all working towards the same goal of taking the art to the next level. You'll also get a teacher who's been teaching for over a decade, but also happen to be a professional artist with over 20 years of experience. I'm biased, but I think you should check it out. It's my proudest work so far in life. The sale runs until the end of the month only, so don't miss out if you've been considering it. All right, so we saw that fundamentals are at the core of developing your art style, but what else? Draw a lot. Finish things. Your style emerges from repeated decisions. Like you need reps for patterns to form. And I mean finished pieces, like not sketches that you abandon halfway through. Your style will show up in how you resolve problems and push things to completion. You won't learn much from that half-finished work sitting in a folder somewhere. Another thing is to narrow your focus. It sounds maybe counterintuitive, but constraints actually help a lot. If you draw a little bit of everything, your decision-making stays scattered. But if you keep coming back to similar subjects, characters, environments, creatures, you know, whatever you're into, you solve similar problems over and over. And that repetition is where consistency develops and how patterns emerge. And then the last one is to pay attention to your own work. Instead of looking at other artists wondering like, is that my style? What do you keep doing even when you're not trying to? What feels natural to you? What do you gravitate toward without thinking? The clues are probably already in your work, not someone else's Instagram. And I think you also have to be aware that what you might enjoy in someone else's work, like what you might find aesthetically pleasing in someone else's art, if you were to draw something similar, you would likely make a bunch of different choices, even if you knew exactly what went into creating those other pieces in the first place, right? How this other artist, what was that method to get to that result? Even knowing that, you would still probably do things differently. So it's those personal preferences that are very important to start paying attention to if you're really serious about developing your art style. And now just a quick warning, if you're further along, like if you're more experienced, if you're thinking, this is beginner advice, I already have a style, I wouldn't tune out if I were you yet. Because there's a second trap waiting. Once you develop a recognizable style, the temptation is to protect it. Like keep doing what's working. And the trap is that this can work really well for social media, but at the same time, it tends to completely destroy your growth. I'm sure you can think of a number of popular artists that you follow or used to follow, you know, like just being the same level year after year. Like they had a style that you liked initially, of course, but they're still doing it many years later. For a lot of artists, a style will become a cage that they're stuck in. They might still be getting likes, of course, but not necessarily improving. And when you stop improving as an artist, the fun just completely drains out of it. Like your brain needs growth to stay engaged. it's basically game over for your motivation once, you know, things start to plateau. Like, it's been interesting to me recently over the last, I don't know, like year or two maybe, getting a ton of comments about my new art style, as if I have a new art style all of a sudden. But I don't see it as new at all. To me, it's just a mix of what I've always done, just sprinkled with new preferences that I pick up along the way. My style keeps evolving because I keep pushing to improve. And I think that should be the goal. Like, keep it fluid, let it change with you. I think that's a good signal that you're not stagnating. So stop trying to find your art style. You're not gonna discover it in a Pinterest board or by copying the right artist. It just doesn't work that way. Your style is already forming in everything you make. So growing right now, piece by piece, decision by decision. Your job isn't to search for it. Your job is to draw enough, learn enough, and pay enough attention to finally see what's been there all along. Sticking to this is probably the hardest part though. So what if you could become addicted to drawing? There's actually a way, and I will show you in this next class that you should check out. The link will be up on screen here in a second. I'll see you over there.